beatmate sounds silly?
Beatmate sounds hilarious.
Thank you.
I love that this is how the show is starting. Welcome in to Guerilla Sports Off-Ice. We're trying to find a new word for beatmate. You guys were all part of this the last
I don't
week.
want to be anybody's beatmate.
Week or so. I'm Jesse Montano. This is Meghan Angley, and we are joined by Colorado Hockey Now's Aarif Deen for today's episode. Got a fun show for you guys as our media roundtable continues. How about that? Before we get into the show, do want to remind you guys about our great friends over at RefiJet. Aarif, did you know that you can refinance your auto loan?
I sure did. That is very much a thing that exists.
Very much a thing that exists. And with RefiJet, you could save around $150 a month, all with just a soft credit pull and zero hassle. Lower payments, flexible terms, and even cash back from your car's equity. RefiJet does the work. You get the savings. Start today at RefiJet.com, the faster, easier way to refinance. Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, yeah, that is where I work.
That is where you work. This is Aarif Deen, Colorado Hockey Now. I'm Jesse Montano. That's Meghan Angley. Welcome in Guerilla Sports Off-Ice. We have a fun episode for you guys today. I've been loving having all of our friends from the press box come in and join us in the studio. Aarif, how the heck are you? It's good to see you.
I am doing great. Am I the last one?
We're not stopping.
Yeah, we're not sure.
Am I the last of the other beatmates or whatever you want to call them?
There's no way to know. For right now, yes.
Great. So you saved the best for last.
We sure did.
Oh.
We sure did. We don't
There
have
we
a guest
go.
lined up for Friday, so we did save the best
Lovely.
for last.
True.
I'm doing great. Summer has been wonderful. How about you?
Good. We actually, I'm cheating a little bit because we did get to see you just a couple days ago.
Yeah, but that was the first time in 2.5 months.
2.5
or whatever
months.
It's been since late June, early July-ish.
Yeah.
Month and a half, I should say.
Yeah, draft night maybe at Ball Arena. But either way, no, we've been good. It's been a quiet summer.
It's been nice.
Relatively uneventful. It has been nice. Yeah.
It has been nice. I mean, there's some things that I'm sure they wanted to get done. I saw the stream has Martin Necas' name in the title, so I'm sure there's some other things they wanted to get done, but not a whole lot of noise surrounding the team, which is a nice change for the first time in a few years. Honestly, I would even say the summer of 2021 heading into what ended up being the Stanley Cup season had a lot of noise too, because Philip Grubauer suddenly bolted, and then you're looking for a starting goaltender, and Brandon Saad didn't come back, and who's going to play second line left winger? And then, that Nichushkin guy that was in the bottom six that nobody really cared about ended up being the guy. There was just a lot going on that summer too. So this feels like the first time in a long time that it's just good team coming back. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah. And like you said, it's been nice for us because this last season felt like 10 seasons with everything that happened within it.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we're glad to have you in. Meghan, we can't start a show without hearing how you're doing. What's going on over there?
Really good.
Good.
Have a little bit of a tummy ache, but that's pretty standard.
That's par for the course.
Is it because the temperature dropped 40 degrees in 2 days?
It might be.
I'm hooded up. I'm already hooded up. No, to your point, Aarif, it's been a run it back type of summer, and that's what we've been wanting to. We figured the folks out there were tired of getting Meghan and I's take on everything, so we wanted to bring some of you guys in and just get your spin on what has been just a quiet summer, and we've kind of been starting these with going back to round one against Dallas. We don't need to fully rehash what happened there, but, just kind of now with, to your point, 2.5 months to kind of let all of that sit. Where are you at with what they've done based off the way that last season ended?
I mean, anytime you compare a roster and a team post trade deadline to what you're going to see in September, it's always going to be a little bit worse, unless for some reason you're the Florida Panthers. You're never going to have the same roster now as you did then, even though his fit isn't really there anymore because of Landeskog returning. Losing Jonathan Drouin is losing a valuable player.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you had to trade Charlie Coyle to get off the Miles Wood contract. Say what you want about Ryan Lindgren. I don't think they should have locked in 4 or 5 years to him, and I'm glad they didn't.
Yep.
but that's a player that you're losing that makes you a little bit worse than you were then. But you're not supposed to compare the September team to the team in March. You're supposed to compare the September team to last September and see what you have this upcoming March. I mean, we talk about the Stanley Cup year all the time. We love trying to compare to that team. Cogliano, Lehkonen, Manson, like Nico Sturm. Like those are all guys that came later. Val Nichushkin in March of that year, in April and May and June was a heck of a lot different than we knew him in September and October of 2021. So it's obviously not the same team. You're not completely running it back, but you are running it back. Like you have the goalie tandem. You got the second line center locked in, and it's the guy you traded for last year. Martin Necas is replacing Mikko Rantanen. Obviously, Kadri's being replaced by Nelson, but the other guys are there from the Cup team. It's Landeskog, it's McKinnon, it's Nichushkin, and it's Lehkonen. And Nichushkin, speaking of, is on the right track this summer, it seems like. Arturi Lehkonen a year ago was coming off of an injury. So it feels a little bit better going in, even though some of the changes seem a little underwhelming. Like at first glance, who's going to play third line center? We'll find out in March.
Yeah.
Why figure it out now?
Are you seeing Val around? I know you normally you have the
Cherry Creek.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen much of him. I've surprisingly seen a lot of Dave Haxtell.
Really? Cool.
Since June, he's been around quite a bit, in and out. It feels like he's been. Nichushkin, I feel like hasn't come back yet from Russia. I don't believe he's skating at Family Sports. I haven't made any of those drives out to Family Sports yet, but I've seen some of the videos of the guys that are out there. But I would assume that's coming soon. I mean, usually Labor Day is when you start to see some of those guys come in. I know Scott Wedgwood, for example, still in Michigan,
yeah.
And you'll see some of those guys start to trickle in here soon.
Yeah. In talking about the ascension of Val Nichushkin kind of sneaking up on the heels of everyone to become such an important player in 2022, are there any players that could stand to take a big step forward going into this next year that we might not be expecting?
I hate that I've mentioned his name like 4 times already, but I think it's going to be Val. I like this. I think it's going to be Val for multiple reasons. Number one, we're all hoping, none of us truly know, but we're all hoping some of his issues are behind him. Yeah. We're all hoping, like Gabe Landeskog. I saw Gabe Landeskog when he did his the private event for the showing the last episode and all that. And he said something to me that really stuck out, where I was kind of like, how you doing, man? And he was like, it feels good going into an off season knowing that I can be a 10, 12-year veteran trying to get better at hockey rather than trying to get back to playing hockey. And I kind of think in a very different way to Val Nichushkin, the same thing. It's not about trying to better my life or my situation or my suspension or possibly losing my livelihood. It's I can actually work on, why am I getting injured every year, physically injured every year? What can I do to get better? And so on and so forth. And I did a little hit on Daily Face-Off, their fantasy, which I don't even think they've released it yet, but I kind of said something similar. Is like the Avalanche are finally starting a season right now. Obviously, the second line center is finally locked in, full year, Landeskog full year, all that good stuff. But you don't have Mikko Rantanen. You had Mikko Rantanen for 49, 50 games last year, more than half the season. When Mikko Rantanen left, Martin Necas came in. Martin Necas, is he going to give you 40, 50 goals? No, but Val can. Like we've seen it. Val has in his. I'll pull up the numbers if you can do it on your laptop.
I'll do it real quick.
I think he's up to 99 games in the last 2 seasons and 52 goals, maybe.
97 games and 49 goals.
Bingo. So 49 and 97. Moral of the story: more than a half a goal a game pace. So he's a guy that can do that. And that doesn't even include the fact that he scored like 9 goals in 4 games against Winnipeg or whatever the heck he did a couple of years ago. So obviously against Dallas, nobody really was able to get going other than McKinnon, a little bit of Lehkonen, but like this is a guy that when you think about not just his personal journey and his personal story of I'm Val Nichushkin, I've been suspended for so many of the last few seasons, actually parts of each of the last 3 seasons.
Right.
I've only finished, 1 playoff out of the last 3 years and all of these other things. It's Mikko Rantanen's gone. I know he's going to start with Nelson and Landeskog, and I know that line had a really great metrics after Landeskog was upgraded to the second line. But who's going to fill the role of those goals that you no longer have with a Mikko Rantanen? I don't think Lehkonen's giving you 40 goals. The guy couldn't get to 30 last year. He had a little bit of a slump at the end of the year. Who knows what you're going to get with Landeskog? Necas might be 20 goals, 100 assists. Like, I don't know what you're going to get out of Necas. Nichushkin's the guy that sticks out to me as, if you want to replace those Landeskog or those Rantanen goals, that's the guy that has the potential. That's the guy that's done it with McKinnon before. There is proof of concept, and there is the skill to do that.
I hadn't done the math. You are 100% right. He is 40 goal pace last year across 82 games, 40, about, if you round up, 43 goal pace the season before across 82 games. I hadn't actually done the math. That's a great call out.
Yeah, it's just he misses so many games. You can never really, I mean, look at the year coming out of the Stanley Cup, 22-23. The first year with Georgiev, I think Nichushkin had, I think it was 7 goals and 5 assists in the first 7 games. And then he got injured, and then he came back and he scored a little bit more. And then obviously Seattle happened. But like,
with
he
Avs,
always does that.
Games played his first season, 65, 55, 62, 53, 54, and then 43 last year. So he's good for about at least 20 games missed so far in his Avs tenure.
And the 55, that was in 2021, where it was a 56-game season.
Oh, you're right.
So he, that's the thing. Like, it goes back to the point I just made about Landeskog. It's like Nichushkin can finally, I'm assuming, like, we genuinely don't know, but I'm assuming he can finally spend a summer focusing on, why am I getting injured? How can I better myself? How can I prolong my career? Because once you hit that big 3-0, which he has hit, and you know, Lehkonen, McKinnon, all these guys are 1995, 2013 draft years. They're all in their 30th birthday year, just like, you know, of years past, Comfer, Burakovsky, etc. This is the age where you have to figure out, how do I prolong my career? How do I make sure that I can play at 33, 34, 35 and be more like someone like Joe Pavelski rather than someone that falls off, like, for example, Ryan Johansson or even Eric Johnson at his age compared to other guys around that mid-30 mark. So I can see something big coming for Val Nichushkin this year. He just strikes me as the guy who, losing Mikko Rantanen, if there's someone who's going to have to make the most of that, it is Val Nichushkin.
Did I ask you on the show yesterday? I think it was right before Connor jumped on. And this is not meant to be a drum up feelings about Mikko Rantanen. It's a genuine question, and I think it is highly appropriate here. You know, let's say you're getting the best version of them, 100% health and all that stuff. Val Nichushkin, Mikko Rantanen. Because I had actually talked before that, and this was before they had traded Rantanen, that I actually felt you had an argument, depending on the night,
that was better.
That Val Nichushkin was a better player. And again, I think extremely highly of Mikko Rantanen. He is an elite producer in this league. Like, make no mistake about it. But I'm more of just, you know, kind of a little bit here playing off of your point. Like, this is a 40 goal pace guy who does a lot of really good things all 200 feet in Val.
If Val, okay, so
you're getting no injury. You're just getting like the best version of him.
The best version of them, I would take Val Nichushkin any day of the week. And I mean that with all due respect, and as the guy who wrote the article about Chris McFarland because he traded Mikko Rantanen. I am a big fan of Mikko Rantanen. Yeah. I love that dude. I love everything about his personality, what he brings in terms of culture and work ethic. I'm sick of people bringing up the whole Arturi Lehkonen's dad thing. Like, Mikko Rantanen is this, like, doesn't give a crap. He and Ryan Johansson just don't care. Like, I'm so sick of that kind of thing. Knowing and feeling that way about Mikko Rantanen, Val Nichushkin's still the guy that was the best player against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Val Nichushkin's still the guy that has this, like, raw size and speed and skill that makes him a unicorn. Like, people aren't built like that. Like, when people talk about different sports, like the UFC, people talk about someone like Brock Lesnar when he was in the UFC. That's a guy who's built so specifically that, like, how do you beat that guy? Val Nichushkin is that way. You know, Sidney Crosby's just a regular looking dude you see in the street with big legs. Like, that's the only difference there. Val Nichushkin shouldn't be able to do the things he does on the ice. So I would take Val Nichushkin any day of the week. The thing is, how often do you get the best version of Val versus how often do you get the best version of Mikko? And that's even aside from the injuries and the suspensions. you'll still have a Val Nichushkin 2 goals, 2 assists in his last 10-game stretch. You never see that with Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, just wildly.
You
Even
never see that
how many
until
times,
he gets traded to Carolina and he doesn't know what the heck's going on. But like in Colorado, when did that ever happen?
Also, how many times did you and I talk about like he'd have a bad night? He'd be like, "Oh, Mikko looked terrible."
Check the
Oh,
score
1
sheet.
goal, 3 assists.
Yeah, literally. Yeah,
It's a
that's the
multi-game
thing.
assist
Yeah.
streak.
Yeah. Now with a day to think on it, feel the same. Val over Mikko again. 100% version of both of them.
Well, so my answer was based upon the opponent, and I
Oh, yeah,
shouted
that's
out the physical
Oh.
component of Val Nichushkin is why he would have an edge against a lot of opponents in a playoff setting, for example, because of the freight train on skates that can be so difficult to play against. But I think there's a level of deception to Mikko Rantanen creatively that adds a skill element that could be really useful against other opponents, but that physicality of Val Nichushkin gives him a definite edge over Mikko Rantanen, who doesn't leverage it as much.
Well, and you know, I remember seeing that interview when they were in Finland, whatever that was, 2-3 years ago, and Mikko saying, "I grew a foot in my draft year." And honestly, when I heard him say that, I was like, that makes sense to me.
Because he looks like a deer in the headlights, doesn't know what to do with the size.
He looks like a guy who does not know how to play like someone who's 6'4".
Yeah.
And it's so when I will never forget when I heard that interview, I was like, oh, you didn't grow up playing with this size. That's why you don't handle it well. I think kind of, this is a side tangent, I'm sorry. But you mentioned the Tampa series. It was the second goal of the game in game 1. Val Nichushkin scored, and it came at the end of a 4-checking shift that I remember just being like in awe of. It was just an absolute clinic from Val Nichushkin. Just to your point, he's a unicorn in the way that he moves, the way that he uses his size, and then the offensive touch once he actually gets the puck on his stick. It's great.
Yeah, and again, I'm a huge Mikko Rantanen fan, and I love everything he brings to this team. And there is still a scenario where in 5 years from now, we're talking about the Avalanche never winning a Stanley Cup again, starting with when they traded Mikko Rantanen, downfall. Like, that's a reality that could play out.
Yep.
The Florida Panthers probably felt the same way when they traded Jonathan Huberdeau, and that obviously went the other way. But knowing all that, like, you've done like 100 episodes with JJ. I used to do a podcast with JJ. People that listen to that podcast, JJ as the co-host, know how highly I think of Val Nichushkin.
Yeah.
As a player, when he's healthy, when he's available. He's Mark Stone with less PR. Like, he's just not as good at marketing himself as I'm one of the best two-way players in the NHL, but he can write that. He can write that over these next 3-4 years. 2 things need to come into play. Number 1, I don't want to say keep your nose clean because that's going to imply things like just keep your
Isn't that
personal...
unfortunate that that's what the saying is?
Yeah, I hate that that's the saying because I don't want to imply that, but like keep your personal life in check. And then on top of that, be one of those players that has longevity into your 30s. You know, do the Dustin Brown thing where he was like this broken down player and then found a way to like have that second life. Like, you need to do that. And if you can do that in 5-6 years from now, people are going to know you as the guy that every time the Avalanche win another Stanley Cup, whether it's their second or third or fourth, Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar are the best players on the ice, but you couldn't do it without that guy. You couldn't do it without, the Red Wings had Larry Yanov, the Avalanche back in the day. They, was Forsberg and Sakic, but how many of those other guys on that team did you look at and say, you can't win without Claude Lemieux in 96, Alex Tanguay in 2001, Milan Hajduk scoring big goals. Like, you need those guys. And Val, because we have the proof of concept, we don't have the proof of concept of Martin Necas in the playoffs yet, and he could take off tomorrow.
Yeah.
And by tomorrow, I mean this upcoming playoffs. Like,
Breaking news.
Yeah, Val, we have proof of concept. We saw what he did against the Tampa Bay Lightning. We saw how strong he was against Seattle before he left that series. We saw him totally just completely manhandle the Winnipeg Jets. That hat trick at Ball Arena. We time and time again, we have proof of concept. If he can get the longevity personally and physically in hockey, that's a guy that's going to mean so much to this team, especially after you trade Mikko Rantanen. And who's the guy that can give you 40-50 goals a year, as you saw with the numbers?
Yeah,
it's number
Val.
13.
It's Val. You're totally right. Well, you just mentioned Martin Necas, could pop off starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or take off in a trade.
Right.
Jeez.
I guess let's unpack this a bit. Megan, I want to start with you in terms of what you just alluded to there. I guess let's just start with the broad strokes question of, are you in the camp of they need to get this guy locked up and get it done? Or are you in the camp of, no, I don't know, maybe there's a market out there for him?
Well, that's a tough question because if they can't get it done, there is a
Right.
market out there for him
Mhm.
and they need to leverage that. But there's a lot of incentive for them to get this done with Martin Necas.
Yeah.
And it's because players like him coming off the heels of a career high season in points, and that's with the disruption of a pretty big trade on his side of things too.
Mhm.
The production was still there, at least from a secondary component. And you saw the immediate success that he had on the power play with Nathan MacKinnon. There's some chemistry there. I think he underwhelmed a little bit in the playoffs, but there was enough that we saw teased in the regular season that there is, in my opinion, a stylistic fit for Martin Necas in Colorado that with a full season, I think we can fully realize. But we don't have the benefit of a full season, not actually, because in a contract year, their ability to get something out of that contract and not allow him to just walk into free agency is really going to be something that's determined in the first couple months of the season. So it's important for them to figure out where Martin Necas is actually at here soon. And I think they should try to make it work with him, is the bottom line. But obviously, if the parties are too far apart in negotiations, they do need to leverage that then to get some kind of return. But what I will say is that's not an easy production hole to fill, in the same way that Martin Necas trying to fill that hole for Mikko Rantanen has been challenging and has not been so readily filled by just Martin Necas. Like, we're looking at Martin Necas and maybe 30 goals from Brock Nelson to help kind of make up for some of the top six production that's been lost. And so it's probably a dangerous game then to let another really high producing player go, because now it's probably three players that you're looking to try and make up the difference.
I think Martin Necas is a guy that, look, if he wants to sign a contract now, and if you get him signed to a contract now, and if it's anywhere close to the 12 million Mikko Rantanen got, when I say anything close, I mean if it's 10 plus,
Okay.
even 10 and a half plus.
What about 10 on the nose? How do we feel about that?
So 10 on the nose, like, I can live with.
Yeah.
Like, to me, the standard that I've set, again, as the guy that wrote the Chris McFarland article, and nothing against Chris McFarland as a general manager. There's a lot of things that we can talk about that he's done well.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of things we could talk about that he's done very poorly, aka second line center. And the long list of things that have happened since then. But I do think Chris McFarland's got the team in a good place right now. However, the number that I've created as a bar is what Mikko Rantanen was making on his last contract, $925.
Oh.
If you can get Martin Necas locked up, which I don't think it's going to happen anymore, especially after that Frank Nazar contract that just came out at 6.59 for a player that's played for like 4 seconds and hasn't even broken out yet as a half a point per game guy. They're strictly paying for potential, and he's already going to be making more than Martin Necas is making this year at 6.5. Like, that's already a bar that's been cleared. But knowing that someone like Mikko Rantanen didn't reset the market, he didn't do the Leon Draisaitl thing of, taking that next step up. He just kind of settled in where everybody else is at 11, 12 million for top line forwards. I think he's like the 5th or 6th highest paid contract now with Mitch Marner. Knowing that Mikko didn't do that, you are going to be in a place where no matter what you sign Necas to, if it's that 10, 10 and a half, 11, it's going to be like, well, we did all of that over $1.25 million, and that doesn't even pay for Jack Drury, who's the other piece, who, by the way, is also up for a new contract. Right. Might ask for $3.5 million or something crazy like that at the end of the summer. You don't know. But on that note, the Mikko Rantanen trade is done.
Yeah.
The trade is done. Mikko's gone. He actually sent you home. And then he came to Nathan MacKinnon's wedding, and like, they're boys, but also he's gone. He's already signed that contract. He's going to be in Dallas for the next 8 years, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
You cannot let that affect.
I completely agree with this. Yep.
I wrote earlier in the summer before they made the contract. Actually, it was before the summer because it was in early June. You cannot let what you gave up for Brock Nelson determine if you re-sign Brock Nelson or not. You can say, well, if we don't sign this thing that we already have, how are we going to replace him when we don't have any more assets?
Yeah,
you can say that, but you cannot sign Brock Nelson because you gave up Callum Ritchie. That's just like Casey Middlestat. You can't keep Casey Middlestat if he's not a fit because you gave up Owen Byram, and they traded Casey Middlestat. Good on them. So where I'm at with Martin Necas is, if he's ready to sign a contract, get him locked up, because that's a good player. People talk about the fit with Nathan MacKinnon. I couldn't care less about the fit with Nathan MacKinnon. You're not signing Martin Necas to be Mikko Rantanen, where he's glued at the hip with Nathan MacKinnon. You're signing Martin Necas to be one of your 4 wingers with Landeskog, Nichushkin, and Lehkonen. Lehkonen's got 2 more years. Landy and Nichushkin more than that you can do what you've done with Jared Bednar at the helm since 2022, and it's take these 4 wingers and do whatever the heck you want, create whatever combination you want, and it works. That's where you need to be with Martin Necas. You don't need him to be Mikko Rantanen.
And that's the part that I want to, narrow in on real quick. We do have a comment here about what the Avs offered Mikko Rantanen, and here's the hard part with all of this. I've talked to a lot of different people about how those negotiations went. I haven't been able to get anyone to say definitively, and I don't think anyone outside of Chris McFarland, Joe Sakic, and then Mikko Rantanen, his agent, actually know what the numbers were on either side. Do you have any further insight into this? I know that I shouldn't say I know after I just gave that whole spiel. From what I have heard most consistently is that the Avs were around 11-ish, that was where they felt the most comfortable.
11.65 is the last number that I heard, because I think, and by I heard, I mean like that was being reported by Friedman on deadline day after he signed the contract with Dallas after that trade from Carolina, things like that. And you might know this, but I think David Pastrnak makes 11.64, and it was like, you can clear that bar. So we'll get you 11.65.
Yeah,
it's more than Elias Pettersson. It's more than David Pastrnak. It would have been the 5th highest or 4th highest at the time. I think that's where the number was. And especially with William Nylander signing at 11.5, you knew it was at least going to have to clear those 2 bars.
Right. Well, and so the point that I was going to make a second ago, and like I see a lot online, and I see a lot of the conversation here in the chat. You cannot sign you can't do your business with Marty Necas based on what you offered Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah.
Based on what Mikko Rantanen ended up getting paid. To your point, it's done. It's over with. Yeah. He's not here anymore. You're hoping with a full season of Marty Necas, full camp, playing next to McKinnon, playing next to these, in this top 6, that you're hoping that's, it's what he did last year, about 30 goals, about 90 points. And if that's the case, then the production that you're losing from Mikko Rantanen, it's really not that far off. So if you're paying him $2 million less, $1 million less than what Mikko Rantanen's making, great, good for Mikko Rantanen, good for Marty Necas. The cap continues to grow. You can't base how you feel about Marty Necas off of Mikko Rantanen. Now,
you can question, we traded him to have more depth, and then you look a little silly if Mikko signs for 12 and Necas signs for 11.9. Like you can question that.
But there's also, I think, in my opinion, a lot of context to that, because he's in a no state tax state now. 100%. And so he could take a little bit less. Would he have been willing to take 12 in Colorado? We don't know. We'll never know the answer to that. But like, there's the Avs did everything that they felt was the right thing to do, and I still feel it was highly defensible what they chose to do, moving him out east. You deal with him twice a year. If you make it to the Cup Finals, let the chips fall where they may, et cetera, et cetera. But the Avs have to make this determination based off who Marty Necas is right now, and who he's going to be. The one thing that I do worry about is waiting to get too far into the season and suddenly, oh man, he's popping off a bit, and this is getting more expensive because now he's on pace to be a 100-point guy, just like Mikko Rantanen. That's where I get worried.
I remember entering camp with concerns around Mikko Rantanen's contract not having been signed yet, and Chris McFarland assured us, it's no big deal. We'll just get it done in season. Like, we're going to kind of prioritize on being present at the start of this season, and the Mikko Rantanen negotiations will work themselves out. And obviously it didn't. It got worse. And that's where I come back to in all of this is it's also not easy to base your feelings about Marty Necas' next contract on where Mikko Rantanen's contract ended up with Dallas. But we will never know how big the divide actually was between the Avs front office and Mikko Rantanen when negotiations were ongoing with Colorado last year. And So what it ended up being isn't necessarily representative of what the conversations with Rantanen, agent, and the Avs front office actually looked like. And so because we will never know how big that divide actually was, and both parties are motivated to spin that in a certain way, we'll probably never know. So it's more important than ever to not dwell on Mikko Rantanen in deciding what is going to happen next with Martin Necas.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I agree with that. I think that when it comes to Martin Necas, if you don't get a contract signed, I'm not going to say by opening night, but I'm going to say by the home opener, which is the second game of the year, which is 2 days later, which is around where Devon Toews signed his deal, which was like the second day of the regular season a couple years ago.
Yep.
Going into his UFA season, obviously. If you don't get it done by then, you are basically opening this up to being a full season thing where you're constantly talking about it, where guys like Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar get sit there and roll their eyes and be like, here we go again, except, this guy doesn't have the connection here that Mikko Rantanen did. Like, going to Mikko Rantanen, my argument with Mikko is full stop. Like Meghan said, Mikko could have been asking for 15 for all we know. Draisaitl got 14. I want more than that guy because I beat him in a playoff series and I got a Stanley Cup and he doesn't. He could have been asking for 15 for all we know, and the Avalanche could have been offering that 11.65. We don't know. However, I stand by my belief that with the Mikko Rantanen saga, I don't have an issue with them deciding this is a player we're going to send out, because I'm pretty sure people thought Bill Zito had some giant cojones when he traded Jonathan Huberdeau off in a 115-point season where he broke left-wing records.
Yep.
In that crazy season with the Florida Panthers. I don't think Bill Zito was doing that thinking this is going to go as well as it did, but it was still a very ballsy move to make. I have no issue with the Mikko Rantanen decision as much as it hurts everybody. That January 24th day in Boston when, I wasn't on the road. I was here. We're all like, what the heck just happened? But I stand by the thought that if they wanted to keep Mikko Rantanen, it would have worked itself out. And why do I feel that? Because everything we've seen from Mikko Rantanen before, everything we've seen from Mikko Rantanen since tells me that that's a player that if he was asking for 14 and the Avs were offering 11.65, and if what Mikko says, if I walked into their office and I legitimately told them, forget what my agent is saying, let's get this figured out because I want to stay, and then Chris McFarland traded him 48 hours later, whatever that story is, if that actually happened and if that continued until July 1st, the Avalanche could have gotten something locked up. Because I remember a time when Steven Stamkos looked at Steve Yzerman and said, screw you and your hardball negotiations. I'm out of here. Then he went to the market. The Toronto Maple Leafs were throwing everything at him. And he knocked on Yzerman's door and said, well, what was that, 8.5? Okay, sign me. I'm staying here. I'm not going there. It's kind of crazy out there. Like, you didn't allow that to happen, because my thought with the Mikko Rantanen thing is it got to a point with the Avalanche where they said, we don't think this player is worth it anymore. And what that is we have a salary cap and he's going to make at least 11, 12, 13, 14 million, whatever that number is. We don't think he's worth it anymore, because if they felt he was worth it, they would have found a way to make it work. Because if Cale Makar takes you all the way till July 1st, 2027, not 2026 when he's eligible, 2027 when he's a free agent, you're not trading him in January because, negotiations went wrong. You're fighting that battle all the way to the last minute.
I don't think you're even negotiating with Cale Makar. It's more of a, you write in the figures you want on this. Please don't put us in too bad of a spot.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, if Cale Makar came into next season, kind of like Martin Necas now, which I'm just assuming, and is like, I don't really know if I want to sign right now. I'm going to see how this goes first. Or actually a better example, Connor McDavid right now. It's kind of like, we'll see. It's not about the money with Cale Makar. It's about please stay, please stay. You are taking that all the way to July 1st, 2027. You didn't do that with Mikko Rantanen because you don't think of Mikko Rantanen as that guy. You felt he was replaceable. You felt he was replaceable, and now you have to live with the consequences of that, whether good or bad. They might be good. They might be what you got, what Florida got for Huberdeau. So that could happen. However, with Martin Necas, I think the biggest thing here is this is a player that doesn't have the connection to Colorado that Mikko Rantanen did.
Right.
I also question what you did with Mikko Rantanen in terms of the surprise element.
Yeah.
Because if you made it very clear, we're going to trade this guy, whatever, Mikko may have been like, oh my God, give me 11-2. I don't care. Just keep me here. He may have done that, or you may have been able to get something better, because in a few years from now, we might talk about Carolina getting better from what they did with Stankoven and 2 firsts and 2 thirds, than the Avalanche getting a 4th line, maybe 3rd line center and a really good player in Martin Necas, who's not Mikko Rantanen, and a draft pick that you used for Ryan Lindgren in a 4th rounder, which I don't even know what they did with that pick. They've traded so many of them now. But I know the second was part of the Ryan Lindgren trade. So, like, you didn't get a first. You didn't get 2 firsts. You didn't get one of Morrow or Nadeau or Nikishin, one of their higher prospects. You didn't get any of those, like, okay, but just wait for this guy. Like, this guy's going to make it all different. No, you know exactly what you have in the deal. It's Marty Necas is Jack Drury. And if you trade Marty Necas and he's worth 25 cents and you trade him for 3 dimes, it's not going to make you any better. Yeah, you'll get 30 cents back, but it's not going to make you any better. It's got to be like,
well, I think you have to be betting on the fact that Marty Necas is going to take the step and have at least a similar production track to Mikko Rantanen. And again, I guess, I don't. Now I'm going back on what I said earlier of, acting on stuff with Marty Necas based off what, we had in Mikko Rantanen. But Meghan and I had this conversation, I think off air earlier in the week or last week, just like every time you trade this, you're watering down your return.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be hard for you to go out and flip Marty Necas into something that's like, well, this is a clear upgrade. This is definitely a better player. All that to say, yeah, I think I like your prediction of, I guess not necessarily if it was a prediction, but that timeline of right after the season starts, that Devon Taves window. And, I really, I'll go ahead and say it. If, we hear next week, we got Marty Necas done 10-5 to 11. I won't love that at face value, but I think it's a sign of what you were referring to a minute ago, Meghan, of like, yeah, we're not going to drag this on. We value him. We want him here. We're just doing it. And
you can change your thought process. You can say on January 24th, we're trading Mikko Rantanen because we're just not deep enough. And then on what's today, August 26th. Yeah. So almost the 24th. So it's been like 7-8 months since the trade. Your mentality could change to, actually, we got Brock Nelson at $500,000 more than Nazem Kadri's making in Calgary, and Gabe Landeskog is back. And actually, he looked pretty damn good for 4 games. And we also got Jack Drury making 1.75, and we like him there. And on defense, we got all these guys back, and Josh Manson staying for 3.95, and Brent Burns is technically $1 million, and whatever the rest can go to next year. And like Mackenzie Blackwood, everybody laughed at us, but hey, guess what? He's only making 5.25 for the next 5 years starting now. Like, you could look at that and say, actually, we are deep enough. We can pay our top winger 11. Yep. We would have loved to keep Mikko for 12. Obviously, he's in Dallas for 12. We don't even know if he was, but hindsight is 2020. We got this guy back. He's 3 years younger. In a couple of years from now, when Mikko Rantanen looks like Jonathan Huberdeau, at least I can sit back and say, ha. Like, you know what I mean? Right. Like, you can change your thought process and sign Marty Necas for 11.5 now, and people can laugh at you, and that's fine.
Right.
You can do that. And in fact, I would rather Chris McFarland does that and owns up to what he did, and just outright says, yeah, I made a mistake. I mean, I'm sure if you ask him truthfully, do you regret trading Bowen Byram for Casey Middleton? I was going to say, of course. What am I, an idiot? Of course I regret doing that. But you don't want him to trade Marty Necas for a couple of second, third line players that are like, I don't know, Burakovsky, comfort level guys, because, I said I can't pay a guy as much as Mikko makes. Like, you can't do that.
Well, and there is the other part in all this. Martin Necas is 26 years old. There's still a lot of opportunity. There's still a lot of potential for this in 3-4 years. It's like, no, Chris McFarland didn't make a mistake. See, what a great foresight he had to maneuver this.
That's such a wonderful point, because I think we also do this thing, and you just did it earlier, about 30 goals, about 90 points. How do you know that that's his limit?
Yeah.
How do you know? He might be a 100-point guy because he's coming from a team and a system and a head coach that didn't give him much of an opportunity to excel. And despite that, he had a stretch where he had 30 points in 17 games last year with the Carolina Hurricanes. And he was leading the league in points at one point with Kaprizov and McKinnon. Like, those were the top 3 up until like December 1st.
Yeah.
So this is a guy that could come out this year and be like, I'm actually as good as Mitch Marner.
Yeah, I'm much better than
I am this like finesse, playmaker. He'll give you 30 goals and 70 assists. Like, he might actually be that.
Yep.
And a lot of that is basically why I don't want it to drag, like you were saying to Meghan. Like, I don't think you want to allow this to drag, because the more it drags, the more he's going to be worth, because he's a talented player, and you always bet on talent. He's a talented player who's 26. He's not 31 or 32. He's 26 years old. If this was Gabe Landeskog in a contract here, Let that bad boy stretch. And if he gives us 90 points by the time the season ends, you know what, Gabe, you're worth it. 32 years old, we're still going to pay you.
Yep.
That's probably not a reality. With Martin Necas, it is a reality. So if you can sign him now, and if the number now is 10.5, like that's the bare minimum, and it's only going to go up from there, sign him for 10.5 now.
Yeah, get it done now.
Get it done now.
As the cap goes up. You mentioned them being able to, improve the back end, get them a little bit deeper. I know that was something, Meghan, that you were wanting to make sure we keyed in on here, get Aarif's perspective on this. I love what you said earlier, comparing this September's roster to last September. Meghan, I like this back end a lot better than what we were looking at last September.
Yeah, well, it's really complete on the right side. So I wanted to get Aarif's take on how they're going to manage the construction of this back end being so heavy.
Very complete on the right side.
Yeah, very complete, a lot of depth. And I think that's turned some attention to maybe being in search of another left-handed defenseman to round it out. Where are you at with this back end?
So I started with, obviously, Cale Makar is your top right winger or right D, and then you got a couple guys behind him in Manson and Malinsky. That's how you entered the offseason. Then they signed Malinsky. I said, okay, well, now if they want to improve the right side, they're, all that leaves is Josh Manson to move, unless you keep that the same and you improve the left. Then they signed Brent Burns. I said, okay, Josh Manson's getting traded. Then they signed Josh Manson.
Right.
And I made a full circle back to where I started, which was I think Sam Malinsky is going to be the odd man out. When he's going to be the odd man out, I don't know. But to answer your question, Meghan, I think he's going to be the one playing on the left side. And if he's not the one playing on the left side, and if he actually starts the season with the Avalanche, which you never know, there might be a trade in September like we see pretty often. If he actually starts the season with the Avalanche and if he actually plays on the right side, I don't see any scenario where the Avalanche want, especially given this like new, focus on size and all these things and beef and all the, Alex Gagne, the guy that they signed, it's not Alex Gagne that I'm intrigued by, but it's what they signed in Alex Gagne, which is this dude that's 6'5" that can hit, that has all these great defensive metrics in college hockey in terms of like turnovers and puck battles and battles along the boards and all these things in college.
And was quarterback in power play.
And on top of all that, it was quarterbacking a power play, but like I'm more intrigued by what they signed in Alex Gagne rather than the player himself. I don't see a scenario where they actually are going to move forward with Devon Taves, Cale Makar, and Sam Malinsky, for example, as 3 of your top 4 defensemen, especially while you still have Sam Girard under contract. So that makes me think that if Sam Malinsky starts on the right side, it's going to be because they're trying to dangle him as trade bait, and that's how he's going to best excel. But to me, they kept Josh Manson to be the third pair guy, not now, but like when that new contract comes in. So who's going to play that second line behind Cale Makar this year? It sounds like Brent Burns, which goes to your question. I think Malinsky's going to shift to the left. I think he's going to shift to the left. I think he's going to be the one that probably doesn't play the full season here. I think he's got a lot of trade value.
That's 2 people who have said that they think Malinsky is the odd man out.
Who else said that?
Evan. Huh. Yeah, I'm really high on Sam Malinsky, but I totally get the thought process.
I mean, you look at the contract he signed, he's going to be a UFA this next summer.
Yeah.
I think even it's almost a little non-committal. I don't want to say on his side and speak for him, but I think the writing's on the wall a little bit here. And I actually expected this last season.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
But now that you've got another year out of Sam Malinsky and he's got more value, now you can actually do a little bit more with him. Like if they gave Sam Malinsky $3 million times 3 years, that says you might be a little overpaid this year, but we know in years 2 and 3, we're going to like you a lot more. But they didn't do that. They did what you said. They gave him 1 year walking to UFA, and they turned around and gave Manson a contract 12 months early. They want Manson. They don't want Malinsky.
But I think they really value Malinsky, and that's why he wasn't moved last year. And so I think internally there is a lot of value around him, but they want to capitalize and maximize it. And so I think to your point, if we do see him start on the right side, it's to showcase him a little bit, and maybe they have a moonlight on the left side as needed. But I think, in seeing their discomfort in playing Byram on his offside once upon a time, I don't think they're going to stick with that long term by any means.
Yeah.
I do wonder now. I mean, this is that immediately becomes your best trade piece. Sam Malinsky, you know what I mean? That's
realistic
immediately your most valuable piece. And I'm saying that as like not like, oh, well, you can't trade. Like, no, if you're going to be putting him out there in the market, like Like, I think that returns a decent player. Like, that's
It
not,
right
has
shot.
to
Has
be,
to.
because what I worry is the value around the league recognized, and so maybe he's still a bit of an unknown quantity to the rest of the
Mhm.
league. But hopefully that's what this season is for, is to demonstrate his value as a serviceable full-time NHL defenseman now and really solidify that. I think this last year was a great building block in doing that. But, he did miss a little bit of time after his game just stagnated a little bit. So all that to say, I think there's a lot of NHL upside still in this player, but I fear it is moving in the direction of becoming part of a return.
I don't think he was put into the best situation last year with the guys that he had to play with, and he still made the most of that given that. And I feel like now if he has to play on the left, he's going to be like, I'm also,
Right.
again, like, you're not putting me with left-handed Brent Burns. You're putting
Yeah.
me with right-shot Brent Burns, for
It's not
example,
thriving.
or Josh Manson. So, like, there might be a scenario where he still doesn't have his full breakout till after he leaves Colorado, whether it's via trade or UFA or whatever it is. But, like, if you ask me how does the defense look now compared to last year, I love what it looks like now. I think it looks really good. And I say that knowing that, I see a lot of comments coming through. If any of these people have been reading my work since April or May, the very first thing that I talked about heading into the offseason, well, the first thing was the second line center. Once Brock Nelson signed, the main focus that I put out there was I think the Avalanche need to move to a system similar to what the Chicago Blackhawks had in their golden era, which was Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, Nick Chalmerson, and then who the hell cares what else? So I kept going to this idea of, like, whether it was reacquiring Bowen Byram, whether it was going out and signing Ivan Provorov, whether it was trying to find somebody on the trade market, I don't know, Travis Sanheim.
Right.
Not that he's on the market, but someone like that.
Yeah,
and
right.
basically say, we have Kyle McCarr, we have Devon Taves, we have this third guy, let's say Provorov, because he was a UFA. These three guys are each going to give you 25, 26 minutes. And who cares what we put with them? It can be Josh Manson on one leg playing 45 games. It could be Sam Malinsky. It could be Alex Gagne. It could be like Chicago had with Oduya and Roosevelt and Kimmo Timonen playing 5 minutes. Like, it can be whatever, but we have three solid guys that we know are number ones or number twos on any other team. Right now they have two of those. So I thought maybe that would be the way that they go. In order for that to happen, Sam Girard would have to get traded.
I was going to say, I noticed a name omitted there.
Yeah. So people hate when I continue to mention Sam Girard being traded. In the comments on Colorado Hockey Now, people think I'm anti-Sam Girard. I love Sam Girard. However, if my idea of this is where they should focus now with their defense has to play out, Sam Girard's got to be the guy to trade, because that's the guy making $5 million, and Josh Manson's making 3.95 coming out of this year. 3.95 for a right shot defenseman is going to be a 4.56 is a very good number, especially with the new salary cap. When Joel Edmondson's making 4 and Kevin Ball's making 5.5 or whatever. Who's the kid in Vegas that got 3.25? Caden Korjak.
I was going to say, I
He's
couldn't even tell.
Barely played hockey, but he's a righty. Like, he's a right shot. He holds the stick this way, not this way,
so
and plays defense. So he makes 3.5 or 3.25. So Josh Manson to me strikes me as a 4.56 guy. Sam Girard making $5 million. I don't think you want that to be your third pair left guy or your fourth defenseman after you have three guys making all of the monies. So, like, that was the thought process that I had going into the offseason. I don't know if that's still what they're going to want to do. I still wonder, I hate to say it, I still wonder about Sam Girard's fit.
Really?
I still wonder about his fit, and I say that knowing...
See, I think he's criminally underrated.
I think he's criminally underrated too. But again, I go back to the fit because I talk about what they are looking for. They want size. They want physicality. They want Brent Burns beef, and Alex Gagne is their new Sam Malinsky project. Maybe he ends up being Sam Malinsky. Maybe he doesn't. But they didn't go out and sign the next Sam Malinsky puck mover. They went out and signed the 6'5" kid. I'm so excited to meet this kid. Again, he might be nothing. He might be as valuable in the NHL as past UFA college guys, like, let's say, Jason Poland, like, not legitimate NHLers like we're talking about Sam Malinsky to probably be. So if that's the case, I always go back to Sam Girard, because you have Cale Makar and Devon Taves. Do you want to continue with your 3-minute munching defenseman being Cale Makar, Devon Taves, and Sam Girard?
Well, and so
does the team want that? Not you.
Right. No.
Right.
And what I think is going to be interesting about this year, and granted, it's a 1-year thing. you just signed Brent Burns, who's going to eat a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
He's going to eat a lot of minutes,
which is good.
Which I think is a really positive thing for a guy like Cale Makar. Brent Burns can take 2 PK shifts off of Cale Makar's plate over the course of a game. That's a win. And I look at that Sam Girard deal sitting at $5 million through 2027. And for me, that is just going to become increasingly more and more of a value contract, especially if, Alan Walsh comes out and teases last week, like cap might actually be going up even more than what we thought. Suddenly you're looking at a $5 million player who moves the puck really well, who's really comfortable in your system. I think a much better defender than people give credit for. And he's one of 2 lefties that you got right now.
That's the thing. So that's the thing. It goes back to that left shot thing as well. They
no
just don't
disrespect
have
to
that.
Keaton Middleton, who is also a lefty.
Yeah, but if Keaton Middleton is playing as one of your top 6, that's because it's fine, but it's because you are just so unbelievably stacked where you have one of those blue lines where it's like 5 guys play a ton of minutes and the 6th guy plays 10 minutes and just don't do bad for 10 minutes and Keaton won't. Like that, but in order for that to happen, you need to make some moves. So it's very, I go back and forth on the Girard thing, especially seeing the Manson deal they handed out, especially seeing how like they have 4 righties out of their top 6 right now. Granted, Malinsky and Burns might not be here in 11 months, 10 months. Like it might be Makar, Manson locked up, obviously, Devon Toews, Sam Girard. You might be back to exactly the same top 4 you've had for forever. And then maybe you do my idea of having 3 minute munching defensemen, and maybe it's a righty. Maybe you go out and get the right shot version of whatever you're looking for, this 25-minute guy. And then your top 4 is Girard at $5 million, being your 4th best defenseman,
right?
With this minute munching, Brent Burns 8 years ago, and Devon Toews and Cale Makar, and then Josh Manson's on your 3rd pair, and Keaton Middleton can play with Manson because who cares? You're stacked. You know what I mean? Like that could very well be a scenario that plays out as well. But does that work salary wise with Martin Necas making 11.5 and Brock Nelson making 7.5 and whatever the heck Jack Drury's going to get, and Lekkonen's, people don't talk about it. He's 24 months away from a contract, just like Cale Makar. Granted,
different dollar figures, but yes,
different dollar figures, and that might not be a guy that you care to lock up for 8 more years. Like, thank you for your service. Let's find the next Lekkonen. Like he's not Cale Makar basically, but like you're in a situation where can it all work? Goes to the Alan Walsh thing. How high is the cap going up? Can you have Devon Toews, Cale Makar, some other guy making $7 million right behind Devon Toews, Sam Girard making 5, Josh Manson making 3.95, and then Keaton Middleton is just there for the vibes? Like, can you afford that?
And then the other thing too, Glee have come over within the next couple of years.
Yep.
How does that that there's a lefty that can move? Did you guys see that article that came out this morning? It had to be. I'd translate it that. His KHL coach is giving him shifts at forward to help with his offensive game. Like they're not playing him there full time.
And I think there's some injuries that are also influencing this decision. So it's a little less silly, but a testament to the offensive skill.
Yeah. So, maybe that's your Sam Girard replacement in 2 seasons and you move him for that last year of that $5 million deal. And suddenly you can, kind of replicate him in Gulyayev for $4 million less. I don't know, but there's him,
Sean Barron. Strength of skating, not quite what
all
Girard's
I had to do was point at you and you knew what I was going for.
But
he's
really
like the only
defender.
other prospect they have.
Well, he's a DU guy. But he's a strong defender.
He's a strong defender.
Yeah.
Size is the concern though. And so to Aarif's point, like they seem to be moving in this new direction in terms of what they might be looking for. And I'm nervous because I feel very protective of this style of defenseman, but I think that they're well represented in the D-core and they might be getting phased out.
So
the ebbs and flows of the NHL.
Again, it goes back to the point of you have Cale Makar, you have Devon Toews. Do any of you think any of those guys are going anywhere anytime soon? Exactly. How many more guys that we have to have Sam Girard because he only makes $5 million. Well, we have to have Sean Barron because he's going to actually be this next prospect that develops in the system. Well, now you're only leaving 2 spots for the big guy. Well, one of them is Josh Manson. He might miss 25 games a season. Well, now you're leaving only 1 more spot. Well, we signed Brent Burns. And when Brent Burns leaves, we're going to sign, he's a 1-year thing. Obviously, him and Barons are not going to be together. But like,
Right.
you see what I mean? The more you're like, well, we also have this. Well, we also have this. Then you're like, okay, well, we wanted size and we have exactly one spot for it. You know what I mean? Like, if they actually want to go in that direction, if Cale Makar was built like Chris Pronger, I'll think a little bit differently, because Devon Taves is a tiny guy, Cale Makar, or even vice versa. If Devon Taves was, Mark Methot playing with Erik Karlsson, this bigger body, I'll think a little bit differently. But you have Cale Makar, you have Devon Taves. I don't foresee any of them going anywhere anytime soon. How many more guys behind them are you willing to have, like Meghan said, of this size and of this ilk, before you say, we have too many of them and we need this bigger, beefy defenseman? Maybe Sean Barons makes the club and maybe he's got a future with the team, or Golyayev, one of them. And that's great, because those will be ELC guys that you can have for a couple years or 3 years or whatever, which
options.
is badly needed with this team since Bowen Byram and Alex Newhook. And maybe that's your 5th and 6th best defenseman. And you got Cale Makar, Devon Taves, and this guy on the third pair. And the 3 guys in the middle round to get out are Josh Manson and 2 other behemoths.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be enough to have Gerard, Barons, Makar, Taves, Manson, and one more big dude? Or do you need 2 more? Like, that's the thing. Where is the franchise at with this size? And then if you run into another Dallas or another Vegas or any other team that Pete DeBoer coaches, and they got all these big guys roughing you up in the crease, and then you lose in 7 games and you're like, well, Barons and Makar and Taves and Gerard, we have too many guys that are just not huge. And Cale Makar is a physical dude.
Mm-hmm.
But
Plays
it's a
bigger
little
than he
bit
is, yeah.
different when you have 29-year-old Eric Johnson, who's 6'6", clearing a crease, than Cale Makar at 27, 28 years old, being a very physical 6-foot guy.
Yeah. That's about going to do it for the Aarif. What's been the best part of your summer, man? You've been all over the place.
Honestly, it's been a wonderful summer. I think between the fact that hockey hasn't been as stressful, like you said, like this is the first year where work doesn't seem to be pushing all the way through. Like, I think for the last month, we really haven't had much to do.
No.
It's like, when are they going to sign Yoel Kiviranta and one of Roslovic or Olofsson? Oh, those are done? Great.
Yeah,
What do we do now? We wait for the rookie camp. Like, that's pretty much been the off season.
Mm-hmm.
Also, planning a wedding last summer in 3 months was wildly stupid, or 4 months or whatever it was, from June to November. It's been a wonderful summer.
Nice, man.
Honestly,
Good.
the weather's been nice. We haven't had any of those crazy forest fires where it looks dark and gloomy. Done a lot of traveling. Michigan, went to Toronto for a few days. I'm doing the thing I always do every summer, running away from my problems, because I like to run.
Yep.
And the weather's just been perfect for that. A lot of swimming. Like, it's been great.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Good. Well, good, man. I mean, we like I said at the top, after last year, I think we all needed a nice, okay, please don't make us do 4 emergency pods because you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Let's just kind of keep it quiet, keep it consistent. And now here we are, 2 weeks away from it getting going again. Meghan, any final thoughts for today?
No.
Aarif, any final thoughts?
I do have one thing I wanted to share.
Yes.
I pulled this up yesterday or a couple days ago, and it's about the bottom 6. I know you guys said you've talked a lot about that.
No, we still want this.
But I was looking at, Gabe Landeskog is going to play his next regular season game, hopefully October 7. What did the lineup look like the last time Gabe Landeskog played a game? I was saving this to write it in Colorado Hockey Now for
Regular
opening
season
night.
game?
Yeah, and I'm still going to write it. But this goes to the point of what we said in the beginning of the show, which is this a complete roster? No, absolutely not. They're going to add more to it.
Right.
But if they had to go into the playoffs with the top 6 they have right now, put the Martin Necas contract stuff aside. Let's hope Brock Nelson isn't Ryan Johansson, which of course he's not. Like, he's going to look good. If you have this top 6, you have the defense you have the goaltending pair you don't have questions about Georgiev. You don't have questions about who's going to play behind Nathan McKinnon. You don't have questions about your depth even.
Yeah.
Last year it was Logan O'Connor and his merry men in the bottom 6.
Yeah,
You never knew who was going to be there. Fixing the bottom 6, even if it's a third line center, even if Jack Drury's not the guy, is a little bit more palatable than having to find the next second line center. So with that, I wanted to share this, which I'm going to write about for opening night. March, I don't remember the exact date of 2022. The last time Gabe Landeskog played a regular season game. The Avalanche were the best team in the NHL. This is what their forward group looked like. Line 1 was Burakovsky, McKinnon, Rantanen. Okay. Line 2 was Landeskog, Kadri, Nichushkin. Line 2 is the exact same. Yeah. So what that tells me already is Burakovsky, they didn't even have their top 6 figured out for the playoffs yet because Lehkonen took his place. Bottom 6. Third line, left winger, Newhook, Comfer, Logan O'Connor, Tyson Jost, Darren Helm, Nicholas Aube-Kubel.
Wow.
That's in March of the year they won the Stanley Cup. I've seen a lot of people having issues with the roster now. How dare you trade Charlie Coyle just to get rid of Miles Wood? And now Olofsson, Colton, and Kiviranta are supposed to win you a playoff series? No, Olofsson, Colton, and Kiviranta are not supposed to win you a playoff series. They're supposed to win you games in October, November, and December. So you're not playing Ivan, Matt Steinberg, and Chase Bradley, and Ty Fellhaber, and all these other guys 4 minutes a night because Jared Bednar doesn't trust them. These are NHL players you can trust. The year they won the Stanley Cup, the year Gabe Landeskog took 20 games off before the playoffs, their third line was Newhook, Comfer, O'Connor. Their fourth line was Jost, Helm, Aube-Kubel. And they still figured it out. It's easy to figure out the bottom 6.
We've talked about that a lot, that like you're not dealing with a who's going to play in net, who's going to be our second line center. These are much more palatable issues to address. That's going to do it for today, Tuesday afternoon, Guerilla Sports Off-Ice. Aarif, Deen of Colorado Hockey Now. Thanks for parking some time, Aarif, to come hang out. You're going to be seeing a lot of us in just a couple weeks. So thanks for coming in and getting your fix a little bit early.
Of course, I'm honestly excited. This has been such, like you said, a reset summer, and the team is just, you know what it is, you know what it's going to be. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be really fun this year.
This was the first summer in the last 2 years, since they won. This is the first summer where I felt like, okay, I'm like really ready for this to get going. The last 2 years, it's felt like it's really like snuck up quickly. Especially that first year after the Cup, where like we had 6 weeks off, and it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm ready to tackle this full schedule again. But I'm really excited to get things going. That's going to do it. We'll be back on Thursday, not Friday this week. We'll be back on Thursday. We got a lot going on in the studio Friday. So, we're doing ourselves in the studio a favor going Thursday. But that's going to do it, folks. She's Meghan Angley, Aarif, Deen, Colorado Hockey Now. I'm Jesse Montano. We got Ashley and John behind the glass. Make sure you guys are following along all of Aarif's work as the season gets going here. Always love reading your stuff, Aarif. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.